Baltimore Ravens QB Lamar Jackson inactive because of illness not related to COVID-19. Chicago. Lamar Jackson was inactive for the Baltimore Ravens' 16-13 victory over the Chicago Bears on Sunday because of an illness that is not related to COVID-19. Jackson had been considered 50-50 for the game after being added to the injury report Saturday, a league source told ESPN Adam Schefter. This came after Jackson said he was feeling great upon returning to full participation in Friday's practice after missing 2 days. Tyler Huntley, who went undrafted out of Utah in 2020, made his first NFL start and helped the Ravens rally for victory with a 30-yard pass to Sammy Watkins in the final minute that set up Devonta Freeman's game-winning 3-yard touchdown run with 22 seconds remaining. Huntley finished the game 26 of 36 passing for 219 yards and an interception. He also rushed for 40 yards on 7 attempts. The loss of Jackson was the latest challenge for the NFL no-2-ranked offense. The Ravens' top 2 running backs, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, and Pro Bowl left tackle Ronnie Stanley, suffered season-ending injuries, and top wide receiver Marquise Hollywood Brown was ruled out Saturday with a thigh injury. The Ravens organization was hit this week by an illness that is not COVID-19. Wide receiver Rashad Bateman and center Bradley Bozeman each missed 1 practice with illness, but neither was listed on the injury report by the end of the week. Jackson was hit the hardest by illness. When he arrived at Soldier Field, Jackson was wearing a mask and walked sluggishly to the locker room. One of the top NFL MVP contenders, Jackson has accounted for 82.8% of Baltimore's offense, 3,086 of 3,727 yards this season. He is 9th in the NFL in passing, 2,447 yards, and 7th in rushing, 639. The AFC North leading Ravens, 6-3, couldn't afford to slip to the Bears, 3-6, because their schedule gets increasingly tougher. After playing Chicago, Baltimore doesn't have another game against a team with a losing record. This marks the 3rd time Jackson has missed a game in his 4-year career. He sat out the 2019 season finale because Baltimore had already secured the AFC No. 1 seed, and he was held out of the Week 12 game in 2020 after testing positive for COVID-19. Jackson, who had his No. 8 jersey retired at Louisville last weekend, did not practice Wednesday or Thursday because he was sick. 3 illnesses this year have led him to miss practice time. On Friday, Jackson said he thought he got a cold from the weather change. The Ravens are now 2-1 when Jackson has missed a start, beating the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2019 and falling at Pittsburgh in 2020 after the team suffered one of the bigger COVID-19 outbreaks in sports. Baltimore was coming off a 22-10 loss at the Miami Dolphins, scoring its fewest points with Jackson as its starting quarterback. Pete Carroll, Seattle Seahawks searching for answers after loss to Arizona Cardinals adds to woes. Seattle, another disappointing loss, has left Seahawks coach Pete Carroll more frustrated than he has ever been in 11.5 seasons in Seattle. He admitted as much Sunday after cutting his news conference short before returning later to answer more questions. The odd post-game scene followed Seattle's 23-13 loss to the Arizona Cardinals at Lumen Field. The defeat dropped the Seahawks to 3-7, marking the first time since 2011 and only the second time in Carroll's tenure that they've been 4 games under .500. "I'm just not any good at this," Carroll said of handling this level of losing. "I'm not prepared for this. I'm struggling to do a good job of coaching when you're getting your butt kicked week in and week out. It's new territory and I'm competing in every way I can think of, but I'm just unfamiliar with it. So if I leave early or if I make a mistake, I'm not on my best game right here. I'm not making any excuses, and I don't want to get good at this." Facing an NFC West leading Cardinals team without injured quarterback Kyler Murray, or receiver DeAndre Hopkins represented a golden opportunity for the Seahawks to breathe some life into their dwindling hopes of making the playoffs for the 9th time in 10 seasons. Instead, they allowed 328 passing yards and a pair of touchdowns to back up Colt McCoy, while Russell Wilson and their offense struggled for the second week in a row since his return from finger surgery. Carroll began his post-game news conference without his usual opening statement, saying, "I don't have a lot to tell you," before inviting questions. He then left about 8 minutes in, saying, "I'm really done. I'm done," and continued to walk off as a reporter was beginning to ask another question. Carroll later returned wearing street clothes and apologized for his early exit. But he was just as mystified in his second trip to the podium as his first one as to why Seattle's offense has been so ineffective. "It's really surprising now that we're back a couple weeks with Russ back in there that we had such a hard time scoring and moving the football," he said. "The running game was pretty efficient, but it came down to we were 1 for 5 in the first half on 3rd down. The hard part of it is that this is what it's been like and it hasn't gotten better. We have to improve and find our ways." After suffering their first shutout loss of the Wilson era last week in Green Bay, Wisconsin, the Seahawks managed only 266 yards of offense and went 2 of 10 on 3rd down against Arizona. Wilson was 0 for 6 on 3rd and 4th down Sunday. He had previously never finished worse than 0 for 4 on 3rd or 4th down, according to ESPN Stats and Information Research. Wilson has now gone without a touchdown pass in consecutive games for just the 3rd time in his career, according to ESPN Stats and Information Research. The Seahawks' only touchdown Sunday came on a 2-yard DJ Dallas run midway. "We had a few 3rd and longs," Wilson said. "They made a couple of good plays. I think the biggest thing for us is that we just have to find ways. 3rd down is always about making plays and finding a way. I think that's what it really is. We've got to figure out what that is and figure out how to do it." Wilson said his surgically repaired right middle finger wasn't an issue in his first game since Oct 8 surgery and that it continued to feel fine last week. On Sunday, he shot down the idea that he's rusty after his rehab kept him out of practice for a month. He pointed to his deep ball. Wilson hit Tyler Lockett for a 48-yard gain to set up Seattle's lone touchdown as evidence. The Seahawks lost to McCoy last season when he quarterbacked the New York Giants to a 17-12 win in Seattle while filling in for Daniel Jones. McCoy managed his way to that victory while completing 13 passes for 105 yards. On Sunday, he carried much more of the offensive load while Arizona went 7 of 14 on 3rd down, a bugaboo for Seattle's defense earlier this season before it improved in that regard during its recent resurgence. "I feel like we're going to win next week, and we're going to play a great game on the East Coast and come on back here and get ready for the next one," Carroll said. "I don't have any other thought in my mind. I'm just disappointed that I've got to keep coming back in here and talk about the same stuff and don't feel like I have good answers for you, because our answers so far have not turned it. It starts with me. I've got to get this done, and I've got to help my guys get it done." Wilson was asked how the Seahawks' 3-7 start will impact his future given the way he voiced his frustration this past offseason, a public airing of grievances that led both the quarterback and the organization to flirt with the idea of moving on from each other doesn't impact any of my thoughts at all, he said. "All I think about is right.